Welcome back to Wednesday night. AJ and I were on vacation last week, so we took a Wednesday night off. But throughout the summer, we're going to try to be as consistent as we can with our Wednesday nights. So I appreciate you coming back after a 1 week hiatus and ready to jump right back into Proverbs. If you remember, we were in Proverbs chapter 1. We took a couple weeks to talk about wisdom, like what is it? Why do we need it? How do we get it? And we'll continue this week and next in Proverbs chapter 1. So if you want to reference it, if you want to be reading through it, or if you just want to trust that I'm giving you the right verses, all three of those are acceptable. Any combination of those are acceptable. And we will be referencing Proverbs 1, the rest of the verses throughout the next couple weeks. So anyway, who is feeling stressed was the name of an article in USA Today several years ago. They were publishing the findings of the American Psychological Association. They've been doing surveys on stress in America since 2007. And what they found is across the board demographically, stress levels had decreased in America, decreased, except in one demographic, those between the ages of 18 and 30. So what they found is everyone else is less stressed, but the stress of the 20-year-old American has spiked, and not only spiked, but surpassed that of every other demographic. And not only had stress increased, 20-somethings are much more likely to be diagnosed by a health professional with depression or anxiety. So there's all this stress on younger Americans, and it begs the question, what's causing it? Where's all the drama coming from? The top three things that were listed as sources of stress were work and money, which are kind of the same, and relationships. So you think, okay, basically young people are stressed and anxious more than any other demographic in the country about what they're doing and who they're doing it with. That's basically the cause of stress in their lives, people and things. The article went on to disclose that two of the number one ways of dealing with stress were to eat food and play video games, neither of which are evil things in and of themselves. But I think we would all disagree that we'd all agree that they're not necessarily solutions to any of our problems. I would also say that the prime ages for stress could even be extended out into one's 40s. So what is the answer? Well, in Proverbs 1, verse 33, Lady Wisdom speaks to us and says, those who listen to me, they are at ease, they are secure, and they have no dread of disaster. The book of Proverbs says of wisdom that all her ways are peace. That if I walk in wisdom, I have peace. I have no dread of disaster. I know I'm secure, and so I'm at ease. I have rest. How do we diminish your stress? What you need is not a drug, not a snack, and not a new video game. What you need is wisdom. What we need is wisdom. And we have a book for that, the book of Proverbs. It's a book that's meant to give us wisdom. And so we launched this summer series on this, and we boiled down wisdom into basically three words. Wisdom is having knowledge, insight, and prudence. Knowledge, that I know how things work. Insight, understanding, I understand the distinctions of how they operate. And then prudence, I know how to work within them. That's what it means. I know something, I understand how it works, and I know how to navigate it well. That's wisdom. So a wise sailor is one that knows about the ocean, and not just they know about water, but they understand how tides and wind and all these factors relate. They understand the distinctions, and they know how to navigate it well. So even in uncertain seas, they're successful. Pilots know about aerodynamics, and they understand the particularities of them, and they know how to operate within the sky. So they can get a big heavy machine up in the air and fly you to LA or Seattle or wherever you want to go, right? They have wisdom. They know about it, they understand it, and can move in it. And the book of Proverbs is meant to give us that wisdom, not in a particular area, but wisdom in life. The book of Proverbs is meant to give us the skill of living, competency in the complexities of life. How do I navigate life well? That's the question the book of Proverbs seeks to answer. And it can give us wisdom. It's based on the idea that there are fixed laws in the universe. And so that reality is wisdom understands the world was woven together in such a way that there are fixed laws. There are ways that it works. And you get to know that physically, right? If you eat nothing but junk food, you will gain weight. If you go leaping off a cliff, you will fall down. You're not going to win that one. It's not like, well, sometimes. No, you're falling and you got to deal with that. That's reality. But wisdom says there aren't just physical laws that govern this world. There are relational laws too that you can't violate. If you persistently lie to people, eventually people won't trust you. If you're mean to people, you'll die alone. You can't violate those laws. And all of them are based on spiritual principles that God built this world and he wove wisdom into its foundations. And so if I want to be wise, I need to understand how he built it. So the book of Proverbs speaks to us about wisdom. It'll speak to us directly about the issues of work, something that we're stressed about, apparently. It will speak to us about money. It will speak to us about relationships, sexual relationships, friendships, parents. And as we move throughout this book, we're going to get topical and tell you how to deal with work and how to deal with money and how to deal with people. How do we do these things? But before we get these different topics, we have to understand that when Proverbs presents wisdom, it doesn't present this buffet and you sort of pick what you want to do. Well, I'll take that advice over there. Don't really need that. That's not how wisdom works. Over and over again in this book, it will describe wisdom as a path, as a road. The words way, path, road show up over 100 times. It's a great metaphor because it's a picture of, hey, there's a direction and I make choices and those choices will put me on a path. And that path is a destination. And is that destination the place I want to be? So the book will present wisdom as a path, that there's a direction you're meant to go, and you'll make decisions step by step, and your decisions will determine your destiny, where you have to say, is that destination a place where I want to go? So wisdom isn't just, well, that was a wise decision, and this one's not. It's a path. It's a way of living. It's that I acknowledge there's a God who made this place, and he made it to operate in a certain way. And as I submit myself to him and his rules and his laws and his understandings of how the world works, as I work within those, I'm not trying to fight gravity and falling. I'm working with gravity and flying. I'm not trying to rage against the sea. I'm harnessing its power and the power of the wind to take me where I want to go. I'm not raging against God. Instead, as I walk with him, he leads me down a path that leads to life. That's wisdom. So before we get into the specifics, we need to talk about the paths, like where we're headed. So we talked about the path of wisdom, walking with God. But the reality is wisdom isn't the only voice speaking to you. It's not. What's interesting about Proverbs is that it was written to 20-somethings. It was written to youth. And as it speaks to the youth, it will say, hey, you're about to step into this world, and there will be different voices trying to sell you on their ideas. So you're not stepping into a vacuum where you hear only the voice of God. You're going to step out into the world, and God's going to call you on a path of wisdom that leads to life. And there's going to be another set of voices, and they have an entirely different path. So as we study wisdom, I want to show us the alternative to wisdom, what Proverbs calls the path of folly. And each path has its proponent. You've got in these chapters the parents, and then you have wisdom personified as a lady calling the young person, hey, you want to move this way. There's life here. But then you have another voice speaking. You have the seductress, which we'll get into later on in the series. And you've got the gang, the buddies, the peer group that says, do this. And they're trying to draw you a different way. So as the book opens up, the writer of Proverbs will celebrate the path of wisdom, but he will say, son, when you walk out these doors, this isn't the only voice you'll hear. There's going to be another voice calling you to a different path. And we need to understand where they're taking us. So today and next week is about the path of folly. We're going to do 4 things really fast to start us off. We're going to look at the path, the people on it, the place it goes, and then the real problem and its solution. That's where we're going. So as we look at the path, where is this path going? The path of wisdom is submission to the instruction of God that leads to life. Wisdom is fear God, follow his instructions, that leads to life. The path of folly is a group of people calling you, hey, let's go kill a guy and steal its money. And some of you may have heard that. If you've read through this chapter, you understand this and you think, okay, if that's the voice I'm supposed to deny, I think I got that covered. Like, I think I would know to say no to that. Somebody comes up to you later on tonight and says, hey, let's go kill some people and take their money. You'd say, no, I don't think I want to do that. And you say, okay, chapter 1 solved. Moving on. This book is easy. but you're not understanding the book of Proverbs. The riddles of the wise. The book will speak in hyperbole sometimes, in these dramatic statements to help you understand the severity of something. Later, it will speak of men devouring the poor. It doesn't mean they're biting the arm of a homeless guy. What it means is they're making business decisions in their companies that exploit poor people. So I make these decisions that will earn me money, but they exploit the poor. And as they do that, say, why am I making that decision? I'm doing it so I can get more money, so I can buy whatever I want, so I can eat at these nice restaurants. I'm doing it mainly to satisfy my stomach is why I'm doing it. So the Proverbs writer will shorten the picture and say, yeah, you just want to fill your belly. So you'll destroy them. What you're doing when you make these business decisions is you're devouring the poor. And it shortens the picture. It's not an exaggeration. It's a concentration to show you how dark that path really is. In verse 11, we read, you'll kill the innocents. You'll kill the innocent, drop them into death for sport. And if you say, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Don't kill people. That's chapter 1. You're missing what's happening here. The dad is presenting a philosophy, a worldview, a way of approaching life. And he says, hey, do you want to see the path of folly, son? Let me show you and tell you the way the path of folly works. The path of folly says, hey, I pursue my pleasure regardless of the price. The path of folly says, I pursue pleasure and I don't think about the price. And you see the allurements that are given to this kid. They've promised excitement. Let us lie in wait. Let us ambush. There'll be an adrenaline rush this way. They promise the intoxication of power in verse 12. We'll swallow them alive like Sheol. The idea of folly is that a group of buddies say, hey, this is really exciting. This will be powerful. Nobody will mess with us. In verse 13, it says there'll be big gains. We'll fill our houses with plunder. There'll be acceptance in the group in verse 14. Come with us. Throw your lot in with us. That's one of the most alluring promises of the path of folly. You get to belong. For some of us, our desire for belonging is so strong that we'll violate 1,000 of our own personal convictions just to get the acceptance of a group. And here, folly promises, man, I'll give you fun. I will give you money. I'll give you power. I'll give you acceptance. Come with me. Walk with me. Do this with me. And as you do it, don't think about what it costs. Don't think about what verse 16 says. Their feet run to evil and they make haste to shed blood. Don't think about that the things I'm calling you to do might actually hurt somebody. And if they hurt somebody, God might have a problem with that. And if God has a problem with that, he'll take up the issue with you. And that's a scary thought. But don't think about all that, bro. Let's just do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. It'll be fine. That's how pleasure reasons. That's how folly argues. Don't think about the consequences. Just go. But God loves people, and he wants us to use our money and our influence and our power and our relationships for people. Path of folly says use people to get money and power and acceptance. That's the mindset. God says the other way. We love people and we use things to help other people and to be a blessing to other people. Blessed to be a blessing. So that's the first part of our continuation in Proverbs. Path of folly. Again, it's not always the easy way. The right way isn't always the easy way, but it's the best way. So to be wise people, to avoid that path of folly, we want to understand how the world works from the creator of the world. That's why we have the Bible. That's why we have community. And I trust that this will be a week of following Jesus well, making wise choices that align with Scripture, that align with God's Spirit in our hearts, and align with the people that you surrounded yourself with, the community of people that are following Jesus together. We will see you next Wednesday. Glad to be back, and have a great rest of your week. We're back in Daniel this Sunday. For those of you who are tracking with us, Daniel chapter 7 and 8, talking about antichrists. Woohoo! That'll be fun. Talk to you soon.